This is where we're going to have fun interacting. It says TikTok is giving me a directive to have fun interacting with their guests. Don't guests usually bring you like a housewarming gift? All right, so I know you guys want to be on the TikTok live because otherwise you'd be spending time with your relatives, and we know that can be very stressful. So thanks for jumping on. We are so excited to have you guys tonight. Ask the Advocate all the questions. You guys were so funny with your questions last night. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Tell us where you're TikToking from, Lily Elizabeth. Everybody has such good names. Austin. Oh, there's the Cheesehead's here. I don't even know why it's token Cheesehead. I would be like valedictorian Cheesehead. One more day of school for me. Why? Why do you guys go to Crowley, Louisiana? Is that near Bro Bridge? Are you like northern upper echelon Louisiana? Are you below the ocean level? Boston, Debbie. Can we just assume that she's from Boston? Sulphur. Do I know where Sulphur is? Alicia, give me a thumbs up. Do I know where Sulphur is? Is it near the Sulphurians? Brandon, SD, South Dakota. Is it cold in Brandon? How about this? How about you guys put your temperature there? Because it was in the 50s today in Texas, and I called the governor that we just need to close the state. It's too much. But I guess you guys are used to colder weathers. I had a Zoom this afternoon in Connecticut, and I said, what's the temperature? Minus 42. Oh my God. And she said, she was like this, in the 20s? I'm like, oh my God, who talks like that? Ava from Florida. Ava's like living on the beach. That's fantastic. All right. So Wisconsin, it's 12, but it feels like 4. Is there a difference between 12 and negative 4? Is there a different feeling? 4 degrees in the 608. I can't even. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. All right. So let's hear your questions for the Advocate. We're excited about tonight. We have a very fancy special guest on. We're doing an assistive technology series, so you guys don't want to miss Special Education Academy. She's a rock star, superstar, international global leader of all things VOCD, AAC, UPS, FedEx, and OPI. All of that together. She doesn't know it, but she is. All right. The first question is the winner. From Austin, Hook 'em Horns. Yes. Christina, you want to ask the first question?
Yes, ma'am. So, tell me about it. I like that name. Wanted to know about the next training that was coming up and how they signed up.
Okay, so the next in-person. Oh yeah, so the next in-person training. The in-person trainings are always in the Great Houston. We have 2 international airports. It'll be the 14th and 15th of January. That Saturday, Sunday, Martin Luther King Jr. Weekend. And then the one in February is going to be the 18th and 19th. It's the weekend before President's Day. So come on down in person. And we also have the 2-day training online. It will change your life.
Excellent. So this is an interesting question. Somebody asked or said that they met with an attorney about getting an IEP versus a 504. And the parent was told that they don't get to choose which one the student gets.
Okay, well, I don't even know why you would meet with an attorney, educational thingy-dealy, but let's just pray for the attorneys right now. Here's the deal. Attorneys are not special ed advocates. Attorneys, right? So just like if you've ever asked an attorney, do you do this? They specialize in something. So there are lots of different advocates. My advocacy is specializing in special education. So you don't get to choose is actually incorrect because parents are the ones that give consent for initial provision of services. And there are parents who their kiddo qualified for an IEP and they opt for no special education or a 504. So of course the parent is the only person that can provide consent for initial provision of either one of those services. So I hope when you met for the attorney, it was a free consultation.
Yes, definitely. So questions. Conservative Chick 68 asked, I have a question. Why don't we have services for gifted students or AGP?
So, we have services for kiddos that have needs that aren't in the normed range. We have services for kiddos that have needs that aren't in the normed range. So I have kiddos that are gifted, advanced, 2E, twice exceptional, and they have language. Parts of their language is not in the normed range. parts of their emotional, social needs are not in the normed range. So that's what we're looking at.
Okay. Very good. So how would somebody go about getting the testing to understand where the student is in the norm range? How do they ask for that?
Sure. So you want to ask for a full individualized evaluation in all areas, and they would be a speech and language evaluation to include pragmatic, medical, physical, sociological, full IQ tests in all 7 G's, which stands for gangster. It doesn't, but all 7 G's, all the brain skills, formal achievement, formal adaptive behavior, and then really so important that you guys get wamboozled on all the time, all of your related and or instructional services, which could be anything from counseling as a related service, in-home training, parent training, to, occupational therapy, anything that's going to benefit the student to benefit from their general education access.
And then we had a question that came in asking about the academy and what is covered. Will they learn how to handle those situations at school and ask for the testing? Is it just Texas or is it all the states?
It's all the state, because IDA, it's federal. It's like it's everywhere, right? So we teach on the law, the federal law, the application of it, and then how it applies to your specific states with those state standards. There's so much to learn as it relates to special education. We have hundreds of hours archived, so you can go back and access them at any time. And they're in series. They all have workbooks. But we train every Tuesday night for about an hour and a half on the law, and then we open it up for questions. So any questions that you have, even if it's not part of the series that we're in, we answer them every week.
And how do people sign up?
So you go to specialeducationacademy.com, or somewhere above my tiny hairdo is a link of the thing, of the deal, of the zip. And you would go to special education. It's called The Academy, and you would sign up there. It's $47 a month. No contract. Stay as little as you want. Stay as long as you want.
Excellent. And then someone asked, is there a time frame they have to test a child when you request it?
So there's a couple of timelines that happen. And so one of the many things that we teach on in the academy or the 2-day intensive or the mastermind is that you really understand timelines. And there's not much variation between states, but when you request testing, when you request in writing, if you didn't request it in writing, you didn't request. So when you request the testing correctly in writing, the school has 15 days to respond to your request for testing. Doesn't mean they have 15 days to give you notice and consent. And then should they come to an agreement with you that there's a need for special education testing, then once you sign notice and consent, it starts a different timeline depending on where you are in the United States, somewhere between 45 school days and 60 school days to finish and complete those totality of assessments. And then 30 calendar days after the completion of the assessments, you come back to an IEP to have consideration of eligibility and or supports and services.
Okay. I have one more, and then I'm going to toss it over to the amazing Shannon waiting in the wings. They're ready to roll. So this is a 2-part question. Besides, that is a lovely jacket, somebody just said.
Thank you.
This new blue. So student has an IEP. His accommodations are read all allowable text. The school is telling parent that he needs to use a text-to-speech reader. Is that an allowable alternative?
So let me just first address the question that you didn't ask. I really want to caution people that we are using this accommodation, which is allowable, of the student being read to. And I feel like for my families, I'm going to get to your question, that gives them false sense of information. So I have kiddos who their present level say that he's on level because he's being read to and he does well when you test him. Well, that's your listening comprehension. It's not your reading comprehension. And at some point, even if it's an allowable accommodation, nobody's going to read to him when he's 25. So I always try to fade that back to the most important part. But what you want to do is you want to put in the accommodation oral, admin, human only, right? So even sometimes they have recorded sort of like computerized voices on that testing, and it's hard for kiddos. There's not the same cadence or enunciation that you would use in human language. So I always put, if it's oral admin, I put human. Thank you, Token Cheesehead.
Thank you.
Okay, Molly said she just accepted her first teaching job in an intensive support class. Any advice?
Remember why you're there. Remember why you're there. You're there to change a child's complete destiny. And try not to get in the weeds of humans and the adults and do this and do that, but your focus is to serve those children and in the best way possible. None of us that are great advocates are looking for perfection, but we're looking for progress, right? And so don't forget your why, and the reason you became a teacher or support person is to make a difference in kids' lives.
Okay, what can you do if a school hasn't had a speech therapist at all this year?
Well, there's nothing you can do about a school not having a certain staff member, but as it relates to your one child, we calculate the amount of minutes that were denied, because the minutes were denied. They weren't missed, they were denied. And then based on that amount, I'm going to ask for a compensatory package. It's not going to be equal for equal. I usually do 1.5, and I would consider that a compensatory package. And then I have it delivered up to 36 instructional weeks at a time that's appropriate for kiddos.
Okay, and then we had a question about the 2-day. What all will we learn at the 2-day?
Probably stuff that you don't want to know. No.
Everything.
Everything. So the 2-day intensive is to fully equip you to understand what it's like to be a successful advocate, however you sit at the table. 2/3 of the people that come to the training are not advocates, and they're not parents. They're school-based members, because they need the content, they need the information, they need the law, they need the application, because it's not taught in school. And so it's very exciting. So we're going to go over everything that you need to know by the end of day 1 to advocate for anybody, however you sit at the table. And then day 2 is more of a deep dive into how to be an advocate for a living, more of our processes, our procedures, our documents that we use when we're negotiating outcomes for kiddos.
Okay, and we've had a couple questions here. What does compensatory services mean?
So let's think about that. So compensatory service, so there's nowhere in IDA that talks about compensatory services. However, under case law, you will have hearing officers rule and give a student compensatory services. And the intention of that, to award a relief, right? When you petition the court, when you're in an administrative hearing, we have a due process hearing. We just want a due process hearing, yay, for the great Rusty Webb. And part of the relief that the judge granted, right? So when you file in court as a petitioner, you're asking for the judge to grant your petition and provide relief, right? And so the relief granted is called compensatory time. And the compensatory time is meant to have returned the individual with a disability where they would have been had the IDEA violation never occurred. So when I say, hey, I missed 10 sessions with Christina, I'm not going to say we'll give you 10 sessions. That doesn't compensate me for time loss. We can never measure time lost, but we can certainly do 1.5. And I always think that that's more than fair. And I've never had, I don't say never, because I stick the landing, which I will teach you guys to stick the landing. I don't move off of anything. I don't move off of any. People in the meetings move and change their mind. I'm not moving. Why would I move? Why would you hire me to be your advocate and go, well, you know what? We got 2/3 of it. Nope. We're asking for baseline. When I go and advocate for kiddos, I'm not asking for them to have swimming and hairdo sessions and, time at the spa. I'm asking for them to have baseline, which is assigned as a responsibility for school to deliver under IDEA. And yes, Angelique, we do not waver, waffle, or water it down. Lots of advocates do, and they should be bonked in the head. Like a real bonk, like with a pool noodle. Nothing painful, but just to get their attention.
Right. Okay, Kristen says, how should I advocate for a child that is misplaced in my room but needs more support?
So you've got to reach out to leadership and just say, I love this kiddo, but I'm not an octopus. Don't have 8 arms. I got the 2 arms and the 1 big heart. I need support for this student to be successful. Should you choose to keep him in my class?
Okay, and I'm going to ask one more question, then I'll pass it on to the awesome Christina.
Wait, I've got.
How would one become?
Okay, go ahead.
What?
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah,
How would one become an official and registered
Yeah.
IEP? That is, I'm sorry. You know what we're going to do? We're going to order a stamp. And then when you guys leave, I'm going to stamp all of you. Just like remember when we went out to the club in the 80s? Don't act like you're that young. And you got a stamp, and then like you rolled into the Methodist church the next morning. There's no such thing as an official, registered, certified, whatever. If you're a human that loves kiddos, you can be an advocate, right? Thank you, the club. Those were good times, right? You get a certificate at the end. I get certificates from lots of professional developments that I do during the year, but we don't just roll up and go, hello, I'd like to give you my certification card. I'm with the International Global Detection of Goofiness.com. So I think a lot of places online sell you this, that you'd be certified. You can be trained to do anything. You become excellent at it when you repeat it and you continue your training. Oh,
right,
so Alicia said they still stamp your hand when you go to the club. That's because Alicia's from Louisiana. Just saying.
That's right. Okay, so hobbies. What are you doing when you're not at the IEP table?
I'm sorry. What? I don't even. Can you repeat the question? What does that mean?
I know.
Hobbies.
So, hobbies. I know.
How do you spell that?
Someone wanted to know if you had a hobby away from your office.
I have a hobby. I collect salt and pepper shakers. Salt and pepper shakers. I have hundreds of them, and I receive them year round because I don't want anybody to feel bad about sending me a gift. So I'm a professional stand-up comic. I don't know if it's really a hobby, but I love making people laugh, and I think that joy makes this journey a little bearable. I love training, so when I'm not at the IEP table, I am training. I went and trained people today. I love equipping people so that they can win and everybody else can win. So I don't really have hobbies. I'm obsessed with this space. I'm obsessed with this work. I'm obsessed with these kiddos. And I'm obsessed with the school-based members and the parents and other advocates and attorneys. So I love this space. This is my love language. So I don't have a career. I have a mission. And my mission is to make sure that these kiddos get what they need so they can be stinking, amazing adults.
Yes. All right. So Melissa had a question. She had a meeting today, no principal, and the coordinator said, oh, she can sign it later. Is that legal?
I'm just going to drink directly out of the water jug. What? Donde vas, as we say in Mexico. Where do you live? Houston Independent School District, Karen. That was Karen. Strike that from the record. No, don't strike that. So if you don't have stakeholders in the meeting, we haven't had the meeting. So since the principal is the person representing the entire district, might be important that they're there.
Maybe.
And did somebody say that was in Oklahoma?
I don't know. Maybe she'll answer back. Melissa and Davis, can you let us know what lovely...
It says Oklahoma. We're coming to Oklahoma in probably February for our press conference. So, Melissa, you'll have to join us on the steps of the Capitol.
Yes. So, can I file an OCR complaint about a playground for a handicapped child that is not mine?
Yes. And so, again, I'm not going to caution you, but I'm going to caution you. The reason OCR complaints aren't open and people say the OCR whatever is because people don't understand the case processing manual. You're filing a legal complaint with the federal government. So you have to know exactly how to file. You have to know exactly what they're looking for. You have to know how, because when I get on the call, even though I have a lot of federal complaints open, they ask me the same questions, right? They ask me, what do I see in the picture? So it's not like you just send it in and go, look at that. You have to describe, you have to give them the language that would be a violation under ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, it falls under OCR's jurisdictions and guidance. And then you have to have a resolution. So I file those for people all the time. But there's a very specific way that you file OCR complaints. We do train people on OCR complaints in private one-on-one training, and you can have up to 4 people in those trainings. But I just do that in a very small group It's not something that I'm going to make a digital product because I don't want people to abuse it. I think that there's enough people filing complaints respectfully, making it a mess. I'd rather people know how to be trained and file effectually.
Then Doodle Mom asks, how do I prove data is being fudged by my son's teachers? They said he's meeting all the goals last year.
Okay. So when you say it's being fudged, do you mean like just because they said that? So here's one thing that's really important. Under your IEP goals, so you kind of have to start with a good offense so you can respond to that. So go back to your IEP goals, and I would make sure that under evaluation processes or measures that I have weekly data collection sheets. Say it together. Weekly data collection sheets. So once I've put that in there, I can come back in a grading period and go, I'd like to get a copy of his weekly data collection sheets. And if they don't have them, then no evidence is the evidence you didn't do it.
Definitely great. Mm-hmm. So an FIIE shows dyslexia, but student is reading, quote, on grade level. Do they still need dyslexia services?
So here's the thing about reading on grade level. You know, when they give you a reading level, they read for 60 seconds. Do you know that? So reading for 67s on grade level doesn't tell me about your prosody, your cadence, your fluency, your ability to take away part of word and put it back together. It doesn't tell me anything. So it's really important that when you ask who is doing the reading, right? What are you giving them? Is it a cold read? Is it a series that they know? Are these running records? And this is what I say in meetings. I would say, Alicia was at a 60-second reading passage, which is completely legal. Yeah. Well, I don't know anybody in school that's in 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 12th grade that reads for 60 seconds, right? And here's what's really important. You want to say, is that instructional or is that independent? Usually when you get a reading level, it's instructional. And there's a lot of latitude, right? So I'm reading with Billy and he's saying ladder, and I say louder. So I'm instructing him as he's reading. So I would get that nailed down.
Okay. And then does MTSS count as 504 accommodation?
No, MTSS is just another acronym for RTI. So those are quick spurts of intervening to cherubs that the general education teacher provides. If they are effectual, then there won't be much more that they need than those short spurts of time. But kiddos that are in RTI for, 700 years, that's not a response to intervention. What happens is we end up having the general ed teacher RTIing all these kiddos, which really is parading the charade, and you're actually giving them special ed.
Okay, very good. So somebody chimed in, wanted to know about the question about IEPs and 504s. Can they attend college or not, regardless of if they're receiving those services in their gen ed or special education classroom? How does that affect them?
Sure. So you can attend college if you meet the entrance requirements for that college, right? And my last baby child graduated a couple of years ago, and we did all of this stuff, and it was right at the COVID time, and he did all this work, and he took the SAT, and then all the colleges in America came out and go, it doesn't matter. What? And so most colleges now are quite liberal, respectfully, with their entrance because so many people have gone online. They need people to come to school. So if your D1 school needs a 4x4x4x4, 4 sciences, 4 maths, 4 Englishes, and 4, that geography thing where you learn the capitals, where I was talking, then those requirements are those requirements. You can always go and get more requirements. You can take classes online, but nobody's at the registrar's office going, did you have accommodations? Did you have a BIP? Right? Did you have counseling as a related service? It's all made up stuff.
Angelique is on, and she said the academy was the best way to learn.
Oh, we love you, Angelique.
Yes. All right. So I'm going to ask one more and then back to the taskmaster, also known as Shannon. What should weekly data collection sheets look like?
So they should look exactly like the IEP goal. So let me just give you a little example. I was in an IEP meeting today. I really was. Let me just read it to you really quickly. I'm not going to read you his full name. Bill Smith. That's not his name. So this kiddo has an IEP goal. Let me just read it through. So here is his IEP. So let's just go over one of his IEP goals. So one of his IEP goals, given direct instruction. I like that. In phonics, in single closed syllable words, Frederico, we'll call him, will improve his ability to segment and blend sounds to decode real and nonsense closed syllable up to 3 sounds through the achievement of the following objectives. That was a lot of words. Okay. Number 1, given a list that includes 15 real words and 15 nonsense words containing a digraph, Frederico will read aloud the list accurately and fluently. So I would break that up. You're measuring a lot of different things for 13 out of 15 words on each list. A lot going on. I just got this kiddo. I roughed him up today. I haven't been to land the plane in January. So the evaluation method says progress towards meeting the annual goal will be measured by achievement and short-term objectives. That's a really good answer to a question that no one asked. So there is no measurement here, but you have to measure the goal, right? So weekly, I'm going to implement this goal. I'm going to be giving Frederico this list of 15 words on it. So first of all, I want the parents to partner with this goal. So I'm going to be saying, hey, since you're Frederico's teacher, could you get me those 15 words every week so we can work on the weekend, right? And then she's going to apply, deliver, work on this goal because it says given direct instruction. And then she's going to have a checklist. It should be this actual language prints out with blank sections under it. So all special ed software in the United States has the ability for you to go back in the software and print these goals out literally. So it should say, Christina, the taskmaster, welding coach, is working on phonics during welding, because that's important, right? And it would say, December 20th, Frederico was not decoding with fluidity, right? In 2 out of 5 trials with 3 prompts, right? And you just fill it in. And then they come back to school January 9th. Frederico was the decoding diva, right? Whatever it is, you're working on it weekly so I can measure. Because if she's doing something right, we want to continue that. If she's doing something wrong, we want to address that, right? So an IEP data collection sheet needs to be that. Now, I've pulled raw data from open records, and kid you not, I've pulled cocktail napkins. I don't care if it's on a cocktail napkin. I need the name of the kiddo, the name of the adult, O, which is sort of hard to find sometimes, the grade he's in, maybe where he goes to school, and, his name. So that I can say, hey, Christina worked on this. And here's how you know a data collection sheet was real. The writing doesn't look the same. If you've ever gotten a data collection sheet and it looks like a font, it's exactly the same pressure. You know why? Because somebody filled it out at one time. Listen, we watch CSI Miami. We know how this works, okay? So what I ask for in the meeting, as I say, is I want to let you know at the end of every month, I'm going to be picking up his data collection sheets from his weekly goals. We're excited about his progress. So I make statements or ask questions that have the answer in them.
Okay, someone asked, what is the difference between the in-person 2-day and the virtual 2-day?
Shenanigans. Lots of shenanigans. And you can pause the digital. So the digital on demand was a virtual, and we might bring those back at some point, I'm not sure. But it was a virtual 2-day intensive from people from Maryland to Alaska. The 2-day in person is just like anything else you attend in person. You're probably going to build more friendships. Obviously, there's nobody else on the intensive when you do it digital. It's just you. But they each have their own benefits. We love coagulating and get together as a group. And if you can get to Houston, I don't think there's any better training than being live if you can. But we certainly want to get the content out to everybody. I love this. Yes. How do you get clients? Can schools refuse you? Refuse me, hot scholar? That's not an option. So I don't get clients. I mean, I don't run an ad. If people are wanting representation, then that's something that we provide. I have clients. And then we have a team of affiliates that work for us as well. And no, schools don't get to refuse the parents, whoever the parent brings to an IEP meeting. If the parent wants to bring the mailman to an IEP meeting, that's certainly the parent's right, because I think we all know that the school brings 87 people.
Okay, someone in the comments said, can they charge me to see those data collection sheets? And they were getting charged 25 cents per page.
Right, so it's really important, and there's different creators that say different things. When you do an open records request, it's really important that you reference FERPA and FOIA, because, and you want the parent to do it, right? I don't do the request. What you do is when somebody says you owe me $25 a sheet, what would I say? Great. Can you show me where that policy is? Is that you're charging me 25 cents dollars? I don't know. Maybe it is $25 a page, right? Because if you charge me 25 cents a page, then you better be charging Alicia that same amount, and Christina. I had somebody one time for 504 records, which are kind of like my natural hair color. They didn't exist. And they were like, it's going to be $6,122. I said, can you please send me where that is in the policy? Okay, you can bring it tomorrow. Just bring a zip drive. So a lot of times you just got to push the envelope right back. Of course, we cannot penalize parents for getting their child's educational records.
Would you recommend an outside neuropsych academic evaluation to expand on evaluation the school did?
So a neuropsych and academic are two different things. So if you're asking for a psychoeducational evaluation to expand, no. If you disagree with the section of the FIE, it's data, summary, or conclusion, then I'm going to ask for an IE for that area. So if I disagree with, if I'm rocking out with the OT, love the O&M, I love the speech pathologist, but the psychologist didn't know up from down, then I'll just say I disagree with this section, with this data, summary, and conclusion, and we'll be requesting an independent education evaluation at the expense of the district buttercup. I think when you add buttercup, it just lands the plane.
It sounds better. Can a school deny an IEP for a child on the spectrum because he is academically gifted?
So an IEP comes at the end of evaluations, right? So I have lots of kiddos that are in the top 10% of their class. So IDEA doesn't say anything about is there an academic need. They say, is there an educational need? I think we got to get this right. Right, so if you have ADDDDD, you might be on the all A honor roll, but you have trouble sitting in your assigned area, finishing, all those things, starting, organization planning. So it's about the educational need. Is it functional, behavior, communicative, academic, social, all sorts of things, right? There's lots of kiddos that don't have a single, not one, academic goal in their IEP.
Okay, here's one on data collection sheets. What is the exact law where they're required to give you the raw data? Ours denied us.
So the law is called your procedural rights and safeguards, right? We have a whole, I don't know, how many weeks long is it, Alicia? I think it's, how many?
14?
14, 11, or 16? 16. We'll go with that. So 32 hours of me training on your prior written notice and procedural rights. So one of your procedural rights as a human that is the parent of a child with a disability in America that has an IEP is that you have the right to examine, view, and receive copies of your child's educational products. So there are certain things that I've asked for with Shannon or Christina or Alicia that they were not able to give me a copy of, and I understand that because of protocols, but we have the right to go up to Calcasieu Parish and the Louisiana on our alligator and go in and look at those tests, right? I was with a client one time and she's like, you're not going to try to take a picture of it. I'm like, no, I'm not the bionic woman. I don't have a camera in my eyeball. So, but you have the right to view, of course you have the right to review your child's educational records. They're yours.
Okay, one more, and then I'm going to pass it on to Miss Christina. Someone is asking where it says that prompts and trials are necessary in tracking IEP goals in the general ed setting.
So what's necessary in an IEP goal is what's written in it, right? Not all IEP goals have prompts and trials, right? So you might have a kiddo that just, one delivered direct and explicit instruction. Billy will choose the right math computation to finish this, math problem 80% of the time. So there's no prompts and there's no trials. So trial versus percentage is, 6 one way, half a dozen another. I want to make sure that the IEP goal does what? Say it with me, kids. It identifies that we're at 100 Main and we're going to 100 Elm, and how am I going to get there? It needs to house what is the SDI, what's the specially designed instruction, what's the teacher going to do, and that could be as simple as, and this is what I have written in my IEP goals after direct and explicit instruction. What does that do? That puts the onus on the school-based members. I see lots of IEP present levels that are like, Alicia needs to do this, and Shannon needs to do this, and Bonnie needs to do this. Well, no kidding, ding dong. We know that. That's why they have an IEP. How are they going to do that? We've identified that that's a deficit. What is the skill or strategy that you're going to teach them as an educator to mitigate that impact?
Okay, so question about rules for teachers on advising a family of a student with an IEP that they need to get an advocate.
Those rules are imaginary. So, I started being an advocate 100 years ago before any of you were born. I came over on the Ark. In 1997, 96, 97, when I started this process, was because a lady at a meeting, folded up a piece of paper and slid it to me. Like it was a secret. And nothing's changed. Nothing's changed in 23 years. I hope and believe that you guys all work in an amazing school district. And if you said, hey, you guys need support, that's fine, right? If if you had a student and they broke their arm, I'm sure that you'd be allowed to tell them that there are some really good doctors in town that do orthopedics, right? But unfortunately, and I don't work in a school, I'm not as amazing as you guys are. It's my understanding from the hundreds of people that I serve and the thousands of people that I train annually that not a lot of schools are happy about teachers giving parents information on representation at IEP meetings. The phrases that I hear are, that's not what we do here, that stay in your lane, like goofy stuff, right? And teachers that come to my trainings are like, yeah, we're told we are prepped and hushed. And so it's unfortunate. It's bizarre to me that we live in America and we can't tell the teacher, who's the one that knows the kid's struggling, we can't tell them your kid's struggling because who else would know? And that behavior is where the division comes between parents and teachers. It's from the bean counters. And not all schools have bean counters, but a lot of them do.
Okay, and then, hey, Tasha77 is here and was asking where your Mountain Dew is tonight, Karen.
So, Tasha, there's no more Mountain Dew. I got off the Mountain Dew a while back, and it's just this. Is this upside down? Yeah. No Mountain Dew. Allegedly, it was rotting my pipes. But those were good times because people in the circus drink Mountain Dew. And, going to IEP meetings is a little bit like a circus every day.
I haven't tried that. All right, so our school tried to move from an IEP to a 504 because our daughter had no academic goals, but there was no testing done to move her to the 504.
Move, like the U-Haul's coming. We're going to move you from the IEP subdivision to where the 504 people live. So I serve hundreds of kids every year. I can count on one hand in 26 years kids that were ever reduced from needing an IEP to a 504. Like hundreds. Like it's what we hope and pray for, right? The point of special education is to make sure the gap doesn't get bigger. Special education does not close the gap. I don't know who told you that. So, I'm going to go back to the money. It's $0 to $2 for a 504. It's thousands for an IEP. And parents don't know what they don't know. And, walking into an IEP is the same as walking into court. And while you're legally allowed to go into a courtroom and represent yourself, it's the law, it may not be the best outcome for you.
Okay, so awesome question. I didn't know this one until, we went and did the 2-day intensive. Is there an IQ test for a child who is nonverbal? And can they deny my child the use of her talker? So she's on an AAC.
Sure.
So can we talk more about the intensive and learning about some of these components?
Right. So there are two tests that are completely nonverbal that are IQ tests. One is called the LEITER 3, LEITER-3, and one is called the UNIT. There's an older one called the Tony. Orlando and Dawn. Sorry, I'm old. I really wouldn't use that. I think it only gives you 4 Gs. What happens is people will go in and they'll give maybe part of the WISC or part of the Sanford Bernay, and they'll do the nonverbal component, which is great, but you still have calculated and normed all those other numbers. If he didn't talk to you, he's not going to talk to you during fluency, during all the other tests. So I had a kiddo whose IQ came out to be in the 40s, and an amazing redheaded diagnostician requested that she redo it but use the unit, and his IQ came out to almost superior. That kiddo is graduating, I think he's a junior, and he's a genius. He just didn't have a lot to say. As it relates to the AAC, so tell me the specifics around that part of the question, Christina.
So they are being denied the use of their speech device in Missouri.
Oh, Missouri. Lord,
oh, Missouri.
So you can't deny somebody language, right? You don't walk up to the other children and put your hand over their mouth. I mean, if somebody's using sign language, did you go and tell them to put their hands down? That's an augmentative alternative communication. So if a student met eligibility for a VOCD, then we use it robustly across settings. The federal government takes that quite seriously in that the teacher must be able to communicate with that student with the VOCD as they would with any other students in their classroom. And it's probably one of my major filings with the U.S. Department of Education Office of Civil Rights as it relates to complaints and violations that get opened.
Okay, perfect. And then
they were leaving it in his backpack.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, I don't want to tell you to call me, but you know what I didn't just say.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Okay. So what are they going to learn? People, when they sign up for the academy and then the mastermind, are we going to learn about more of these laws regarding the AAC devices?
So there's 3 different things, right? There's the academy. The academy meets weekly because, this is, special ed is a huge moving beast. So when people respectfully tell me that they took a class in college, I can barely find my keys in the morning, right? So this is what we do every day, all day long, 40, 50, 60 hours a week. So we are training you in the most cutting edge parts of information that are coming out from OSEP, from OCR, from your state regulations, requirements, whether it's virtual, remote, in person, those sorts of things. That's the academy. We're there every week. We're training every week. Hundreds of hours are archived. That's $47. The 2-day intensive is a 2-day intensive to make you ready to walk out the door, to be an amazing advocate, however you sit at the table, or to start your own business. Your brain will hurt by lunchtime, and you will learn more by lunchtime than you've ever learned. And I stand on that because it's the truth. And it is a deep dive, and it's drinking from a fire hydrant. The Mastermind is a 10-week 2-hour-a-week training. They're very small cap classes, only for people that want to be professional advocates. Only for people that want to be professional advocates. You sign an NDA. It's very intense. It's very serious. So that I don't need you to be me. God. Hi, Amanda. We love you too. But that way you can use the exact phrases and strategies, and it's really just giving you, a quarter of a century information in a way that you can, absorb it and go to work immediately. So you're going to need to be in the academy, right? And everybody who's a human needs to come to the 2-day. If you're not a human, we would recommend that you don't come to the 2-day. We did have one person come to the 2-day. Doesn't appear they were a human. I think that they might have been, a mole from the Pentagon. I'm not sure. And then to go to the Mastermind, it is a prerequisite that you have to have gone to the 2-day. It's if you swipe your card and just show up in the Mastermind roster, and you've never taken the 2-day, you will respectfully be refunded, and we would like to see you in the next mastermind after you've completed that. Because the big kid stuff we're talking about in the mastermind, I'm not going to reteach what was taught in the 2-day.
Okay, we've got someone asking, is there a course that you would recommend for admin to attend to help support their students?
Yes. The same courses. The courses are the courses. They're not for parents. They're not for advocates. We're all advocates. It's the same information that you have to know. We have, when I tell you it's over 3/4 of the people that take any of my trainings are school-based members. We have people in the academy that are superintendents, that are special ed directors, that are coordinators, diagnostician, a gazillion LSSPs, because the training's not out there. You have, 20, 30 hours a year to train school-based members. You're not training them in 115 pages of IDEA. Like, that's not, let's be honest, that's not occurring, right? So I've never had anybody that participates in these trainings that doesn't have a benefit from it, especially school-based members. And then, of course, I do professional development nationwide, either via the great webinar, Zoom, Ethernet cord, or I'll just show up in Wyoming and lasso your future.
Hey, Karen, someone asked which one should they start first, and then when are they, where are they, all the things.
What you doing? You're supposed to say where you at. Okay, sorry, she wasn't ready for all that. So join the academy. The academy, you need the academy. It's every week. It's the best. The 2-day intensive, we have them in person. We have one in January, one in February. They get more spread out after that. We have them online. It's digital. And then if you really are thinking about leaving your career in the next 6 months or the next 12 months, then consider joining a mastermind, because it's going to take you 10 weeks to finish it. There's a very rigorous test at the end. We don't just go, oh my gosh, you're adorable. Because I want to know that if I send you into a meeting and you're a mastermind graduate, I want to know that you're not going to do something to compromise those parents or any of the other staff members or that student's future. I take it really, really, really serious.
Then
Yes.
what are we learning tonight in the academy?
We are learning, we have a celebrity coming to teach us about VOCD, who's amazing, the great Sarah Loving, who owns Chatterbox in the Dallas area, and she's a ridiculous rock star. We are in a series about Assistive Technology Act of 1998. I'm sure your school trained you in that, right? About how you can have all the devices, services, and supports for anybody using AT, right? Remember you had that training? Yeah.
It's a no from me. Okay, well, the academy starts in 10 minutes, so we're going to take 5 more questions. Okay, and someone said, I know you said that the next 2-day intensive is available online, but I want the exchange in real time with those who are live. Is that possible?
What? So if you're in person, it'll be live. The digital on demand is a recorded on demand training that we did. So we don't have any virtual lives at this point. So the choice is you can do the digital starting right this second, it's the same amount of time, or you can come to our in-person trainings in Houston.
Yeah, I think they were looking for like a live training online.
Yes. It's hard to wrangle the live people online. It's like a bunch of wet cats. Yeah.
Very true.
I like wet cats.
I do not. Okay, so
the lives are currently always in Texas. If you would like to open up an arena in Minnesota and you want me to come in, that's not a problem. I'll just get on my sled and head there.
yeah. Someone said, can you get a one-on-one pair in a classroom without an autism diagnosis?
You can get a one-on-one when there's a need. The need has nothing to do with the eligibility. You could have 5 kids with the exact same eligibility. All of their needs are going to be different because they're humans. So the federal law says, Andrew F. says that we write an IEP to enable the student with a disability to make progress in light of their unique circumstances. So the eligibility is the only thing that opens the door for services and supports. The specificity of that is what's unique to each kiddo.
I like it. And then earlier we had a question, and I don't believe it was read. If the school district disagrees with an LSSP diagnosis, does the LSSP trump the school district? Like, who gets the final say?
So LSSPs don't make diagnoses. You know who makes diagnoses? Doctors. Yeah. And so we don't have doctors in educational settings, right? So an LSSP will provide her information that supports that the student have met criteria in a certain area or they did not. At the end of the day, everybody could say no, nothing, nada, but the IEP committee could determine that the student is in need of special education and related services. So in the federal code 300.111D, which stands for DUH, it says that a student doesn't have to be listed by an eligibility as long as we know as a committee that this student is in need of special education and or related services. So see, actually the federal government, 1975, before y'all were born, said, listen, so we don't have a bunch of people arguing in a school, let's just make this easy. If the kiddo needs it, then we do it. So humans have lied about the law and added to the law stuff that's not there and manipulated outcomes. Not a fan of that.
Yes, I agree. Chauvin's Boo, which they're from Louisiana. They have to be. Says she's been doing this job for 2 decades, and you've already taught me things. I fear not knowing what I don't know.
Well, come on over to the training. We would love to have you. We have people from the other country of Louisiana all the time, and they give us information on the breaks you don't want to miss.
Ma'am, we can't talk about that.
Yes, there are workbooks. The workbook, I think, is almost 150 pages long. Yeah.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
Does the school district have to have their own meeting recording rules, or they just go by the state law?
Oh, it'd be great if they went by the law at all. So the rules of recording are based upon, first, is your state a one disclosure state? So in Texas, it's a one disclosure state, which means that one of the parties has to know they're being recorded. So if I'm on a phone call with Christina, we're both over 18, barely, and neither one of us have a cognitive disability, then I don't need to inform Christina that I'm recording. And so I think there's about 11 states that are two-party state. There are some states that have extra statutes that say the committee members need to agree. But I always at the beginning of the meeting, I let the committee know that I'll be recording. And then they throw themselves on the floor in Florida and Missouri and go, yeah, do that. And so if we can't do that in those states, then we don't record. The recording is for continuity of communication and clarity about what we agreed upon as a committee, right? So the reason there's somebody typing in the courtroom that we can remember what we agreed upon. So I always record when it's an option. I use otter.ai, OTTER.ai. It's 540 minutes for free a month, or I think it's $10 for 6,000 minutes. And I think that we all know I use the 6,000 minutes.
Okay, so neuropsychologist diagnoses ADHD and IEE, but district refuses to accept the report. What can I do at this point?
So here's the problem with diagnosis and eligibility. It's one of the reasons that you have to be very clear on who you pick for an IE. I have some amazing people in the Houston area that do great IEs, but they're doctors and they end up writing a report that's a clinical medical report, and it doesn't really parlay into an educational setting. So I need to find somebody who's really good at writing IEs that can talk about how does this medical diagnosis show up as a federal eligibility. And sometimes that's where the gap is.
Okay, does a kiddo being denied a 504 for severe diabetes warrant an OCR complaint? That question's been asked a couple times.
If you have severe diabetes, you should be on an IEP. My kids that have diabetes are on an IEP. So they have an educational need. So if somebody has diabetes and they've denied them a 504, you need to drive immediately to the Dollar General, get several pool noodles, and bonk them on the head rapidly one after another.
So someone asked, what exactly is a 504? Their son has ADHD, PTSD, depression, and autism with social communication disorder.
So a 504 is in the 500s of the educational code. It's a civil right. It's not an educational product. It was never, lean in, it was never intended to house probably 3/4 of kiddos that have needs in America, right? 7.5 million children in America have an IEP. You can quadruple that, is that a word? That for 504s. A 504 simply says a student can't be denied accommodations based on their disability. So I don't know a lot of teachers going, oh, sorry, I'm not going to be able to check for understanding because you don't have a 504. So 504s, in my opinion, which I stand by, are almost always a waste of good paper. Really good paper. Nothing's happening in your 504. Can you get dyslexia? Okay. We should give dyslexia to everybody on the planet that wants it, right? There's no goals being measured. There's no services. You're not mitigating anything. There's no program. It's a civil rights that you are allowed to have because you live in America, right? An IEP is an individualized education program that is unique to your students' totality of their comorbidities, of their disabilities. And we write programming, time, support, strategies, goals to teach them strategies to self-manage their disability over a lifetime. Two totally different things.
Okay, and then this question's been asked a couple of times. How are services or eligibility determined for individuals with disabilities 18 to 22?
Sure, those are born out of a robust transition plan because it identifies and addresses what are post-secondary needs that have not been met, addressed, or completed by the time they graduate high school.
Excellent. And then I had another question.
This is it. I got to have a snack. And
you don't have a snack.
I gotta have a snack
for you.
Yeah.
All right. And then what is happening in 3 minutes?
Oh, what? Special Education Academy. Don't you want to be one? Yeah. You should be there. It's going to be great tonight. And if you miss it, they're always recorded and they're archived within a few days. So one last, I'm going to let the great Shannon, a.k.a. Shannon Jr., give us the last question. And Shannon, could you read it with feeling?
Yes. Okay, let's see here. Who's the lucky one?
Dun, 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 dun.
It was suggested that I get a 504 for my son. He was highly intelligent, yet has ADHD. Should I push?
I'm sorry, say that again.
I guess someone suggested that this person get a 504 for their student because he has ADHD.
So a 504 is a good starting place, right? So a lot of times I will take the 504 to sort of put a pin in it while we wait for the full testing to come back. But ADD is a neurological disorder that's going to impact you, I don't know, let's go ahead and go with a lifetime. So if I can teach a child strategies around that, because if I don't teach that child strategies, you know what he does? He teaches himself strategies that probably will not serve him long term.
All right, kids, gotta go.
All right, kids. We will see you next Tuesday. Is it next Tuesday? At 7 o'clock on Ask the Advocate?
No.
Yes.
Yes, it is. Yes.
You see, children, how Alicia was trying to not let you be on the thing. So next, when y'all are done with the wrapping paper and you're crawling your way to your weight goals on January 1st, we will see you next Tuesday at the same time. If you need something, let us know. Remember, we get it right for the child, we get it right for everybody.